Welcome everyone. Today we are here to discuss D.F. Karaka's famous novel There Lay the City. It published in the year 1942 and is among one of the bestseller of his novel. Before talking much, let's start the sharing of the novel. So we are here to discuss one of the most popular novel of 1942, There Lay the City. If we go by its content, then it is a love story, and famous Indian critic M.K. Nayak says, There Lay the City, 1942, a love story set in Bombay during World War II. If examined deeply, M.K. Nayak's point is neither critique nor summary, but a small comment on the structure, setting, and background of these three novels, especially Just Flash and We Never Die. These are two other novels of D.F. Karaka. So M.K. Nayak was talking all three together. If we go by There Lay the City, it is affected by World War II with a background in which the whole of British life was replaced with a half British heroine who wanted to marry an Indian. That is the structure. You could simply say a half British heroine. Half British heroine because she wanted to marry an Indian and her parents were not fully British. If we go about the publication of this novel, then this novel is written in a record time of few weeks before it was published by Thacker and Company in 1942, a time that played odd with Karaka and regularly forced him to drop the idea of finishing off his second novel. Why his novel? Because at the time he was given a chance to visit China or Chongqing as a war correspondent, and so we can go before he left for Chongqing as an Indian war correspondent. Karaka submitted its first draft, which ultimately becomes one of the few novels during World War. In addition, Murphy took advance booking of Karaka's as order booked already. That is a quotation from Then Came Hazrat Ali, a biographical book of D.F. Karaka, and it says he is in a hurry, publish them even without reading the title, as the name of Karaka was enough for him. It shows Karaka was highly popular name at that time, and whatever written by him is published even without having a first reading. At this point, Murphy is the publisher, seems to suggest to Karaka that he can publish another book after he returned from China, but before that, he must finish the due book. That was There Lay the City. So this is the importance of There Lay the City, and as he promised that he would publish his work as soon as he, means writer, writes it. That is again a comment from Then Came Hazrat Ali, that is the biographical work of D.F. Karaka. This is how the second half of the novel was finished only in 2 weeks, just before his proposed trip to China. That is a publication history of the novel, how in a record time he wrote this novel, then later it was published, and it became one of the bestseller novel of its time, and all due to Karaka's name. If we look at the novel or its structure or the opening, then opening is one of the most important point of a work. Look at Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice or Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. In its opening, the content is described, and perhaps it is the very opening that makes the novel best. Similarly, if we look at the opening of Pride and Prejudice, then the opening says, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. It clearly reflects the content, the structure, the background, or the theme of the novel. Similarly, Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, light of my life, fire of my life, my sin, my soul, Lolita. It defines again the content same way Pride and Prejudice. If we have in-depth examination of the catchy opening, a reader can quickly decipher the plot, structure, background, theme, content, and even character's mindset, if not the ending. It would be the very first instinct to choose those who go through Karkas, their lay the city, which is inherently romantic, that opens as. I held her in my arms even before I knew her name. If we look at these three openings, that is defining everything in this novel, and we can know the structure and theme of the novels, but not the ending. So, by the line, beyond any doubt, introduce the reader's novel's essence, which is at the same time attract their imagination only to add to it to the story until it ends. If we go by the story, then it is story of a girl named Judy, a poor but beautiful girl. She is the central figure of this tragic romance, described by sensitive words of the novelist in a vast stricken ecology. Why vast stricken? Because it was during World War II when the novel get published. Novelist come narrator, told in a lone but tragic tale of Judy, a restless girl he met at Maxine's dance school, the owner of evening dance school. That novelist come narrator is the nameless narrator of this story. He is not named, so we only know the Judy, the heroine, but not the name of the narrator. If we look at her profession, Judy's profession, she was a fallen woman who sold her body due to poverty, yet there is a spark that plainly distinguishes her from the rest of the girls in the business. Her parents, who preferred her engagement with British rather than Indian boys, were happy to discover that Tony, an employee in the British firm, wanted to marry their daughter. Later on, he sensed the idea to marry the girl and went to England, where he married another girl. Heartbroken, Judy was left alone by parents who were later dead. So this way, what we find that both the narrator and Judy are all alone in their life. And if we go even further in the story, then what we have, the second half that D.F. Karaka was describing before the publication, that it was written in a record time, then we can say that Karaka had to do everything in just 2 weeks, because after 2 weeks he had to left for China, Chunking. The time was making it difficult as his mind was on Chunking and the war, because war was the thing that everyone to hear, and D.F. Karka considered it an opportunity to earn a name and fame, and it also make him, because his another book, that Chunking Diary, was again a bestseller. So it was nearly hard and impossible for him to focus his mind's attention back to romancing of the little Anglo-Indian girl Judy. So he was not much interested in Judy's affair, as he wanted to go to China as a war correspondent. As Karka himself says, this plot is slow, moving, and deep set. This is again quoted from Then Came Hazrat Ali. Karaka also quote, he thought up a sex involvement from which it was doing to be difficult to extricate, although he didn't. The If we go by the novel was nearly half in length by the time Karka got opportunity to visit India. But he left no time for this deep involvement with characters. Hence, he finished not only the novel in 2 or 3 chapters, and also finished the most of the characters. By the end of the last page, as Karaka say, there lay the city, and there also lay a few dead corpses. As we know, the ending of the novel, the heroine died. And if we go by the second half, then novelistic characters spontaneously come out of Karaka's mind and show their presence on the pages of paper through the typewriter. Bearing in mind the larger size of the novel with its setting in Bombay, as Hazrat Ali biographical work quote, the movement of character was kept slow, so every character is moving slow, the romance soft and passion kept well under their control. An air of reality permeated the pages of this manuscript, which went straight from the author to the flat bed of the printing machine. Now, Judy, the heroine, becomes attractive enough as he moves closer to her in each chapter. That is the second part of the novel. An intimate relationship was developing between two sympathetic bodies despite the young gap in their respective minds. It is again quotation from the again if we go the romantic novel ended on the sad note, a point which was found most touching by the numerous authors and readers. However, Karaka knows that it was nothing but just a literary murder. Overall, we can say whatever the story, content, theme, opening, ending, and love affair, Karaka do not consider it a novel but a literary murder. Karaka, in fast time, finished the manuscript and submitted to Murphy one day before he was due to leave for China. In this way, the readers get their Lay the City, Karaka's second novel, reflecting a bygone era of World War II, and how British characters, Indian characters, and others behave in a war stricken environment. If we look at the ideological gap, then Karaka had seen every ideology closely and become part of nearly all, but never tried to adopt any single one and devoted to it. The charge of Nalini Natarajan in an edited book, Handbook of 20th Century Literature of India, is Karaka's anxiety to make ideological statements mar the artistic quality of his work. Yet, his is significant as it makes the end of intimation and the beginning of self assertion. In other words, he took every good from each ideology, and the same is reflected in his novels. It includes all socialism, liberalism, progressivism, Gandhi's nationalism, colonization, and anti colonial movement, World War II, or whatever else one can count. Karka remained uncommitted to one and attached to all sides of all ideologies, which with this he avoided observing the Indian political scenes and remains unbiased in his views towards a person or an event involved. If we look at structure, it is very organic, wherein it moves at a slow but realistic pace. Author till the end attempted to prove that there can be a passage between Indians and British if they understand one another. A relationship culminated into love affair followed by a physical union and pregnancy of heroine. However, due to lack of understanding, she married another British. Thus, one can easily relate the relationship with Ruth Prawar Jhabwala's Heat and Dust, a very famous novel about the British characters. With the publication of each novel, the characterization of each of Karaka's novel become more and more Indian. The British characters, which were exclusive in the first novel, Just Flash, the title of first novel is Just Flash, become Anglo-Indians in the second novel, that is Judy, the heroine. If the heroine is half Indian in the second novel, only Indian characters dominated the third novel, that is We Never Die. That is title of third novel. The British characters were given just secondary, though small yet important roles in the third novel. Thus, it is having half British women character in the second novel. If we go at East and West, then East and West theme can be connected by what we say E.M. Forster's famous terminology called Forstierian novel, The Passage of India and England, which was incomplete in Forster's Passage to India, still remains incomplete. There is no bridge of union. The novel vessel still remained unfilled even after some 20 years of Forster's novel. The novelist was able to mix the blood of East and West, but the union remains incomplete. She bore a male child but married a British. Officially, the British were married to British, but there was a deep and unforgettable affair between East and West behind the scenes. There is some truth in Jhabwala's statement that India always changes people, that is from the opening of Heat and Dust. By the end of this novel, everyone was changed. So, if we continue, then in this novel too, there is plenty of Eastern and Western characters that promoted a class of East-West thinking. Such type of relationship are advertised in E.M. Forster's Passage to India, Mulk Raj Anand's novels Untouchable, Coolie, Sword and Sickle, Two Leaves and Bud, and many others. In Raja Rao's Kanthapura, Mangonkar's Combat of Shadow. Likewise, there lay the city caught in the dark shadow of these complex and complicated relations where East was suffering from, to borrow the phrase of Rudyard Kipling, white man's burden. In contrast, East was loaded with brown man's burden, that is to be or not to be loyal to the British. These novels are highlighting those content. So this is what we have from this novel. There are several things related to the hero and heroine, but overall, the characters are totally different in that. It is the opening, ending, and the association of East and West that make this novel bestseller. Although it was popular at that time, now it is not as strong as it should be. Although the novel is not given the critique, neither at the time of Karaka nor even today, still it is one of the novel that reminds us of the glorious past of literature written by Indians in England. Apart, if we go to record these novels and critique on them, a new type of era would be explored that talk about those forgotten authors and their works which were gem of India at some time. So this is what we have from this work today, and with this we will end, and we will return back with some other work. Till then, take care. Goodbye.